Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. A very warm welcome to another episode of the Burr Grinder Show, and also big welcome to those of you on the Arabic with Sam channel as well who'll obviously be watching this. Today's episode was so relevant to the Arabic channel that I couldn't help myself. I couldn't resist sharing with you guys as well. So in today's episode of the show, I have a conversation with our brother Ismaeel Beaumont. A lot of you guys will be familiar with his work already. I mean, obviously the things that he's achieved at Maysoor Arabiya is absolutely incredible. I mean, he's reached literally tens of thousands of students, helping them with the Arabic language. Obviously, a lot of you guys know that he's a graduate of the University of Medinah, most specifically in the School of Hadith. He's also achieved great things with his other project, Little Maysoor, as well, where they have children's resources and stuff as well. They've got these really beautiful little dolls as well. There's a promotion that he talks about as well, actually, in the show as well, that we'll share with you guys. So, actually, in the show, I mean, it gets pretty heavy quite quickly. Like, I wasn't quite sure how the conversation with him was going to go because, him and I have worked together for quite a while, but we've never actually kind of spoke live. Like, he helped me with the planning and for the proofreading of my program, the Arabic in 60 Steps program, and I hired him as one of the mentors for my program as well. And, him and I have kind of been in communication for a long time, and he's a brother who I really love for the sake of Allah. And, all of these things that he's managed to sort of do over, throughout his career. Graduate from the University of Medina. He's recently had his fifth child, and also with his battle with cancer as well, which lots of you guys, I mean, maybe if you don't even know the contribution that he's made to his field of teaching the Arabic language and of helping the Muslim youth, like there are even some of you don't even know about that. Like you might even know about him because of his struggle with cancer and how he's talked about it. And so it got really honest. Our conversation got really honest really quickly, and so I'm absolutely sure that you guys will enjoy it, inshallah. So please join me in welcoming our dearest brother, Ismaeel Beaumont.
We all right?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, we're good, bro. So I don't want the audience to miss out on any of our little chit chat and stuff. So I'm just going to go straight into it, inshallah, if that's all right. So so Bismillah, just 3, 2, 1, 1. Ismaeel Beaumont, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, my brother. Thank you so much for the honor and having me on this. Can I call it a podcast?
You can call it whatever you like, Akhi. It's a show, it's a podcast. This particular episode will go on all of the Arabic with Sam stuff because it's so relevant to them. And then
Sure.
Then there's kind of a new show that we're launching called the Burr Grinder Show. And it will be an episode on there as well, inshallah. So
awesome. Thank you so much, man, for this opportunity to we've never actually spoken. I
Subhanallah.
can't even put it face to face, virtually face to face, if you like, and also the opportunity, Akhi, for me to reach out to your audience. So I do, deeply appreciate this. I just want to put out there, there's a fantastic, if you don't mind, Akhi, I'm going to just use this opportunity just to plug something. There's a fantastic Instagram page that anybody that's interested in interior design, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that they check out. It's called Decor Mummy, one word.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And she's an up and coming interior designer in the Muslim space with 5 kids. And inshallah, she's definitely going to disturb that space. I wanted to put that out there from the jump. It's called Decor Mummy, Decor Mummy, Mummy.
Good, mashallah. I'll put the handle up here, and I'll put it in the show notes as well, inshallah. Whoever's watching this on YouTube as well, I'll link it up in the description as well.
That's nice.
But based in London?
Definitely based in London, but you don't have to be in London to benefit, because there's going to be a website soon. It's going to be the Instagram page, and it's going to be everything from interior design to raising kids, also living with somebody that has a life-threatening illness. It's my wife's page, by the way. That's why that's why I'm pushing it so hard. And oftentimes, Akhi, forgive me for just diverting ever so quickly. Oftentimes, especially with the Arabic or the journey with cancer, everybody just sees this face right here. You with me? Yeah. They don't see the rock. They don't see the rock that's behind me, that's supporting me up, like my vertebrae. They don't see it because she's behind the camera. So this is her time for her to, give back all of her creativity with regards to interior designing, her knowledge about marketing and advertising, how she's managed to do that, try and chase her dream, and at the same time raise 5 kids, one with Down syndrome, look after a sick husband, try and run a business. She's definitely my role model in so many ways.
Shout out to the mothers and the wives out there, okay? shout out to them out there, man, that
Big
that are making all of this possible for us. And
that's it.
yeah, that's beautiful, mashallah. You know, but whilst we're here, then maybe I'll give a shout out to something that my wife does as well, maybe, inshallah, as we're here. And maybe we do a specific request, actually, that everybody who's watching this make a particular sort of personal and sincere dua when you're on your own, when you're in your sujood or whatever, so specifically for our wives and for our mothers, and you know, for those who are kind of behind the scenes and make it happen for us. Because you know, my wife, Allah Mabarak, she runs a charity specifically for the deaf Somali community. It's called the Silent Horn Foundation. And yeah, because you imagine in a place like Somalia, right, that's had all of its kind of challenges in our recent history, like so much so that pretty much anybody who is a Somali or is related to a Somali probably knows firsthand somebody who's been killed because of conflict or because of hardship out there, and the fitna that they suffer. And you imagine, even when everybody's in a situation that's that difficult, imagine if you're also deaf. Like imagine if you also can't hear a soldier who's warning you about going to a certain place. Imagine if you can be outside and you can't hear if there's, if there's an attack or if a bomb goes off or something, you can't even access it. And you know, Somalia and the Somali language is in the position that Somali doesn't even have like a recognized sign language yet. You know, like the deaf people here in the UK, we can learn British Sign Language. Like my wife knows British Sign Language. I had to learn it when I got married to my wife, and you know, like here and in America and loads of other countries, they have a sign language. And you know, so shout out to the wives who are kind of behind the scenes. That's a nice way to go into it, inshallah. Because we'll inshallah we'll get good feedback from the sisters out there who often complain that we don't acknowledge them. So huge shout out. May Allah bless the wives out there who are doing their thing. So it's an enormous pleasure for me, Akhi, to kind of firstly to actually have an opportunity to have a chat with you, because it's amazing, bro, that we've worked together, that you've helped me with building my program and stuff, and we've been in touch for like years now, and like we've never actually got a chance to meet. We've had a few times where I've really wanted to, but with stuff going on, Akhi, you know, it's been difficult. But it's a huge pleasure for me to kind of introduce you to my audience, and then kind of allow my audience to kind of come on the journey a little bit with you, and just kind of see how we've ended up with Maysoor Arabiya that you're running now, and with the Ismaeel Beaumont that we see today. So so firstly, I really just want to ask, like right now, like how are you feeling? Like right now in your health, how are you feeling?
Akhi, mashallah, now that I'm looking at you, man, I feel fantastic.
Mashallah.
I'm fasting today, but akhi, I forgot that I was fasting.
Subhanallah.
Mashallah. So I'm feeling great, Akhi. I'm feeling great. I'm still I left my 6 days of Shawwal to the, just the last few moments for whatever reason. But alhamdulillah, I called it time. But to answer your question, I feel great, Akhi. I feel good, man. I feel, obviously, I'm not too sure if you've heard the recent news that I released yesterday, that I went for a consultation the day before, and my oncologist informed me that the cancer's grown. Or it's growing, or it has grown since the last checkup, which was some 3 to 4 months prior. So ordinarily, anybody would think, this is a catastrophe, it's disastrous. And it is, but there's always khair in every test. You with me? And I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you with a slight smile on my face if I was down in the dumps and depressed, because I'm not. I understand what's happening. I just see the situation for what it is. The fact that I've got cancer and it's spreading, it's not indicative that I'm going to necessarily die before, for example, la qadar Allah, but yourself, all right, who may not, wallahu a'lam, have any health implications right now. When we're dealing with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I've mentioned before, and I hope nobody takes this out of context, but there's no algorithm. You don't try to suss out what's going to happen with the qadr of Allah. It is what it is. And as Muslims, we know from our iman or our faith in the 6 pillars of al-iman, that we have to believe in the qadr khayrihi wa sharrihi, the predestination of Allah, the good of it and the bad of it, without trying to suss it out. All right. And I don't know, everything that anybody goes through ultimately makes them who they end up being. Yeah. And any type of trauma or challenge, fitna or obstacle that I've had in my life has led me to where I am today, to be able to say, I accept, and this is the message that I was trying to get through to my audience yesterday. I accept what's happening. Am I happy about it? No. If I had the option to change and remove this cancer, would I? Definitely. But at the same time, it is what it is. And I'm going to continue to praise Allah, and I'm going to continue to be positive, and I'm going to continue to try to give the best of me, all right, for myself, for my family, for my brothers and sisters all around the world, because I understand, akhi, no matter what happens, whether I'm successful and I beat this, or whether this thing beats me, whatever happens, akhi, it's all good, because there's lessons happening as we speak. 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line, if I'm not here, people are going to look at this and they're going to draw inspiration from it. And I totally understand that. To me, akhi, it's crazy. It's almost like we are in the future and we're looking back right now. And I say to myself, well, Ismaeel, la qaddar Allah, but let's say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he takes your life in the next 6 to 12 months, or whenever Allah decides. If somebody was looking back, how would you want them to see you act? How would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to see you? How would you be happy when you stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and, all of your deeds are put in front of you? How do you want to say to Allah, Allah, when you tested me with this, I was patient and I was happy. Yeah, it was difficult, but I still didn't allow that test to change who I am. Because at the end of the day, akhi, cancer-free or a cancer patient, I'm still Ismaeel. I still got to be me. You with me? And I refuse to allow my circumstances, especially things that I can't control. I can't control the rate that this cancer is growing, or when it's going to grow, or how big it's going to grow, or how vicious it's going to be. I can't do that. So I'm not going to, concern myself about something I have absolutely no control over. But what I can control, akhi, is how much I smile in a day. What I can control is the words that come out of my mouth in a day. And what I can control is what I allow myself to think about. Because in my humble opinion, akhi, I could be wrong, but this is just my take on life. We have more control over ourselves than we think. Oftentimes somebody will say, like I was speaking to my sister today, and whatever we were speaking about as a personal issue, she was like, I can't do this and I can't do that. I said, no, you're choosing not to do it. Because all you have to say is to yourself, I can do it. The moment you say that, you say it enough to the point you believe it, then you just change your whole perspective. And that is one of the most beautiful lessons that I have learned from this unfortunate circumstance. You with me? I said to my missus, just not to rabbit on, akhi, I said to my missus today, because obviously we go through stages. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I may not be as vibrant, sometimes she's cool, sometimes she's finding it a bit more challenging because she's got other issues to deal with and think about that I don't necessarily have to think about. She has to think about the thought of existing without me. I don't have to think about that, because once I'm dead, I'm dead. And I have to go on to the next phase, which is the grave and dealing with the fitna of the qabr. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us both from that. Ameen. But for somebody that... I'm so sorry, akhi, man.
That's all right, bro.
This is natural, right? This is just, let me put it on silent.
100%, bro. No, you go for it, bro. You go for it.
We're not cutting out anything, right?
No, anyway, this is candid.
That's it. She has to think about stuff. So it's within the realms of reality that oftentimes she will get a bit more emotional. So I said to her today, I said, babes, listen, name me one time in our life wherein we've gone through a challenging situation and Allah's let us down. She couldn't, because it's never happened. And I don't believe it will ever happen, because the situation that you're going through, it's not indicative if it's a test, let's say a difficult situation, because we don't necessarily know, is it a test or is it a punishment? Inshallah ta'ala, we hope it's a test and a means of purification, but ultimately we don't know. My husnul dhan billahi tabaraka wa ta'ala leads me to believe it's a test, because I got good thoughts about my Lord. But at the end of the day, no matter what test Allah's thrown at me and my wife in the 14 and a half years that we've been married, at the end of that test, there's been some beautiful, beautiful benefits. I say, what makes you think that this is any different? That's why I say, akhi, everything's all good.
SubhanAllah.
Whether I can see it, whether I don't see it, whether I live to see it, whether I don't, I just know it's all good. I just know it's.
You know, akhi, like the children of Adam, and especially us, like in our times, we have such a tendency to despair so quickly. Do you know what I mean? Like when we see our entire experience here in the dunya, we get so caught up in like an individual moment, and we think like this is turmoil. This is adhab and alim. Like we think that this moment is awful for us, and you know, and sometimes when you pull through it, you look back and you think, I wouldn't have changed that. You know, subhanallah, you look back and you think like I came out of that with things that changed me. Like just earlier, I was talking to my family about I haven't asked my wife's permission to share all the details, so I'll just say what's necessary for this conversation. But like my wife's had some health issues, and like there's been times when she's been on a ward before, and like even sometimes my wife uses language to me, like she even talks as if she's accepted that she'll like die before me. Like as if she's even accepted that, you know. And like I remember one time when she was on a ward, and like there were just certain hours that I could go and visit her, and I was having to kind of look after our eldest son sort of on my own when she was in the hospital and stuff like that. And you know, like when we look back at that and we think, subhanallah, like in a way, like that moment of darkness where things got pretty raw. Like it was an enormous ni'mah in many ways, because like throughout our lives, we don't often get an opportunity to really ponder on how we are going to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just in our nature as mankind that comfort, we think of comfort as being our friend, but comfort isn't really, comfort can be a punishment for us in this life if it distracts us. Do you know what I mean? Like we kind of get given the impression that, and obviously as humans who are striving to return to our Lord and be in Jannah, we're obviously programmed to want comfort. Right, but the wisdom comes from our Deen, subhanallah. When we understand that's with our Lord. You know, just as you were speaking, I was thinking to myself, like, you know, alhamdulillah, who has lent Ismaeel Beaumont to us for a short period of time. Like, alhamdulillah, what a blessing that Allah has lent him to us for this short period of time. But it's for all of us for a short period of time. Do you know what I mean, akhi?
You see what you just said there? That is exactly my message to everybody. Look. Today it's me. Yesterday was Brother Ali Banat. Today it's me. Tomorrow it's going to be Fulan. The next day it's going to be Fulana. It doesn't matter who it is. You know, my cancer is no more important than any other person's cancer journey in the world. But what happens is when somebody is faced with like a life-threatening illness, or if they do pass away, we automatically go into the mode of, I'm never going to be with so-and-so again. All right. And that's the challenge. This is why we get sad, and this is why we cry. And, you know, maybe some people may fall into depression. But if we just change the narrative and say exactly what you said, show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing said person in our lives and sharing that experience, or learning that particular benefit, or, do you know what I'm saying? Just thank you, Allah, for allowing me to know so-and-so. It changes everything. Yeah. And that's what this is what I would love people to learn from this whole journey. Learn to change the narrative, learn to change your perspective, and you will change your life.
Changing to have a perspective of gratitude is something that's kind of really helped me cope with, because generally I don't know why, but just as a tendency that I have, like sometimes my mind can go to dark places. Like sometimes when you have people who you love so much, like when you have children and a spouse and a family that you love, you think like what would my life be like if I lost them? Like, you know, like sometimes I think back to when I was in Palestine. There was a time when I was praying in Masjid al-Aqsa, and there was a clash during that time, and in that clash there were children who were killed. And I remember going back to the masjid.
You witnessed all of that?
Sorry?
You witnessed all of that?
Yeah, I witnessed all of it. And I went back to the masjid, and when we were praying janazah, there were like small bodies shrouded. Like when you see the bodies shrouded, they're like the length of children. And I remember sort of the size that those children were is like the sort of size that my eldest son is now. And it's really easy when you think about that. It's really easy when you think about that to kind of just feel sad, because it is true that obviously we can be returned to Allah whenever, but the position of the Muslim should be one of really understanding the reality of it, of that really it's the case that hasn't Allah been so kind and generous that he's lent our children to us. Like if you were to think about anybody else in this world, if they were to lend you the joy of your life, like a little baby that copies you and looks like you and imitates you and compliments you and is built pre-programmed to just love you to pieces, and lent that child to you for an amount of time, like how can we not be grateful for that? How can we not be grateful? Even if I'm not saying it's easy, do you know, Akhi? Like it's not that I'm saying it's easy. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be sad when their children pass away and anything, obviously. But you know, subhanallah, man, like when we really think about that, that's, yeah, subhanallah. It's a good gratitude is huge. It's huge.
Definitely.
Subhanallah, man. So let me ask you, bro. So obviously, you know, you're having your tests and your trials at the moment in terms of your health, and you've obviously, when you went to study in Medina as well, like I assume you had to be away from family when you were in Medina, at least for a little while as well.
Totally.
Did you ever, so just to clarify a few things. So did you go to Medina, how old were you?
I got accepted when I was 25 years old.
Okay, good. And did you need to do the 2 years of Arabic at the beginning?
I did indeed, yeah.
And then you did 4 years afterwards?
I ended up doing about maybe like 4.5, but
Okay.
in total it was longer than that because I took an academic year off.
Okay.
Yeah,
right, okay,
one semester my wife was pregnant. The other semester, unfortunately, I broke my hand. So it was like 2 consecutive terms.
Okay, cool. Khair, well, I just wanted to get the timeline right. So we're talking like of actual time you had to be away, a good solid 6 years at least,
Yeah,
right? Of time you had to be away.
Definitely.
Have you ever considered quitting?
Many times for multiple different reasons. And yeah, this is something that I have absolutely no shame in discussing, because many people drop out. And it's so difficult just to be away from home, be away from your family, let alone trying to study at a very, very high level in a different language. There's so many different, delicacies happening at the same time. And this is really multifaceted when it comes to studying abroad, especially in a place like Medina, which it's from, in my humble opinion, and I've got, there's other brothers that, they concur with this, it's an academic setup. It's not, you're there for the love of ilm and you're there just to study. No, you're there to study and you're there to pass. Because if you don't pass, you're going to get kicked out. That's the reality. So if you're not highly motivated, if you haven't been, either gifted or you haven't picked up with how to study, you're going to find that experience very, very difficult. On top of that, you've got the fitna of living in a strange land whereby you're still trying to understand the culture. Some bits of the culture you can get with, other parts of the culture you may not like, because of just by virtue of where we come from in the West. The relationship between teacher and student in the West is significantly different between to the relationship between teacher and student in the East. Growing up in secondary school, I don't know, what your background was like, but how many of maybe of us or of our friends or people that we may have went to school with would fight the teachers or be rude to the teachers or backtrack the teachers? That's unheard of in the East. It's unheard of, So when we come as Western students, remember I was 25 years old when I got accepted. So by the time I got into the kulliyah, which was the kulliyah of al-Hadith, I was 27. A lot of the people that were studying with me were young kids. So as a result, the teacher would treat them away. And I'm like, I graduated from a university in the UK before I even got to Medina.
So are there I was just going to ask, so are there some students there who are 16?
I don't know as young as 16, but I mean, they definitely acted as young as 16.
Okay, or 18.
That's what I can, maybe as young as 18, okay. 19.
Okay.
And as a 25-year-old man as well, at the time, I was married with 2 kids. I'd been living away from home for as long as I can remember. To be spoken to or treated like a child, not by all of the teachers, but by some, it's challenging because, you start thinking like, I don't have to be here. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't be far-fetched for me to be older than some of the teachers, or me to be the same age or around the same age.
How did you overcome that? Was it just a lesson in humility?
Definitely. And I suppose the desire to be there was stronger than the desire to leave.
Okay.
Ultimately, you with me? Even through other testing times that I experienced in university, when I was just ready to throw in the towel and say, I have had enough. Obviously, it wasn't stronger. It wasn't, how can I say this? That desire to say, khalas, I'm fed up, wasn't as strong as I want to stay and learn and, remove the ignorance from myself so I'm able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon clarity. And I thank Allah for that, akhi, because like I said, so many brothers came and so many brothers, they left, and I don't disrespect anybody that left, because everyone's got their reasons. And I would never, ever dare have the audacity to judge somebody based upon their personal experience, because I don't know what they were going through. Do you know what I'm saying? So if anybody was able to make it through, I don't care which kulliyah you went to, because there's this like internal dispute between the tulab, which kulliyah is the hardest and which is the easiest, and where do the strong students go and where do the weak students go. I'm not into all of that, man. Everything's relative, you know what I'm saying? If you can manage to get through that ma'had, which is the Arabic Institute, and then go to the kulliyah and pass, and you still got your sanity by the end of it, then mashallah, fantastic. You done a fantastic job, man. And even if you didn't, well done for trying.
Why did you do hadith?
Excellent question, Akhi. I mean, I suppose when I was at the stage when I just finished the ma'had, and we was going for a muqabala, which is like a meeting or an interview, shall I say, with a representative of the kulliyat, and then that's where you choose which kulliyah you want to go to. I didn't know where I wanted to go at first, and the only examples of things, people that I could look up to, were the other students that had preceded me and were in the various kulliyat. And one of the main factors which led me to pick al-hadith was the conduct of the students that were currently studying in that said faculty. And I like the way they carried themselves. I like the way, the knowledge that they seem to have. I soon learned a very, very sharp lesson in knowledge isn't only what you preserve up here. Knowledge is what you know and what you implement. Do you know what I'm saying? I learned that later on. But from what I saw, they look like the ideal, representative of what a student should be.
So was
in
it
my
your choice?
opinion, yeah, for sure, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
But just because you pick a faculty doesn't mean you get in.
Yeah.
You have to pick like your first one, and I think second, and perhaps your third one, and
Okay.
you get whichever one you know. I think it's contingent on your grades, and because they ask you questions, man. They ask you questions. What's the difference? I remember one of the questions that they asked was like, ما هو الفرق بين الشروط والأركان?
Okay.
Like for example, the shurut of the salah and the arkan of the salah.
Yeah. The pillars or the conditions of it. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're not clued up, you could easily say, okay, I don't know. You have to study to know these things.
Yeah.
So can you imagine if you don't know anything like that? And it's no disrespect if somebody doesn't know, but if you want to go to a faculty like al-hadith, where you have to memorize, say, 150 to 170 ahadith every single semester, and each semester consists of 4 months. So in the space of a year, about 4 months. In the space of a year, you're looking at 300 to 350 hadith taqreeban, if I haven't made a mistake. Hadith you have to memorize, on top of memorizing Quran, on top of memorizing, different mustalahat from mustalah hadith, or if you go into usul al-fiqh, you're doing all of these subjects for the first time. But if you don't show in that meeting that you've got that foundational level of knowledge, then they're probably going to say, you know what, I don't think you should go here, I think you should go there. But alhamdulillah, that wasn't an issue for me. And yeah, that's what led me to go to Hadith.
I
And
feel
also
like... No, go on, finish the point, inshallah.
No, I was just going to say that the second reason which led me to go to Hadith was, I wasn't necessarily thinking about the needs of my community, if I'm honest. I didn't intend to come back to the UK. If I had it my way, I probably would have stayed in Saudi Arabia as long as I could. But I was and still am fascinated to learn, everything that's possible to know about the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. كيف كان يمشي? How did he used to walk? كيف كان يتكلم? How did he used to talk? كيف كان يتعامل مع أزواجه? How did he used to interact with his wives وأصحابه and his companions وأعدائه and his enemies? I was fascinated about that. كيف كان يأكل? How did he used to eat? And that's what I wanted to try to encompass or benefit from during the short amount of time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to be there.
I think there is something especially beautiful for the student of knowledge, and I certainly found it for like the small amount of hadith that I studied when I was studying Arabic, is that there is something incredibly beautiful about having the opportunity to study the way that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke, and particularly like as someone who's interested in the Arabic language, particularly how eloquent he was. How amazing, what a legacy it is that we can sit here and we can hear the words in the language, word for word, how our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke to the people who he loved the most. Isn't it incredible? Like just recently, I mean, I've kind of got down a rabbit hole of there's this newish platform called TikTok. May Allah protect you if you're on it as well. Anyway, so on there, when you join, the algorithm doesn't really know what you want to see, right? So it shows you a lot of different stuff, and there's lots of stuff which may Allah protect us from it. You have to swipe through very quickly, and then I've come across like various kind of like Christian videos. And obviously, I come from a Christian background myself, and I was trying to find the answer, right? I think I know the answer myself, but I wanted to know if the community can answer it myself about what language Jesus alayhi salam preached in, right? Yeah. There's pretty much consensus. Like most people know that like the earliest manuscripts of the New Testament are in Greek, right? Most people know that. But Jesus alayhi salam spoke Aramaic. So at the very best, the earliest manuscripts are translations of what he said. At the very best, right? But isn't it amazing that that we can actually hear the words that our beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke? Like, because I say particularly for someone who has the opportunity to study, because the eloquence of the Quran is something which we accept and people can access quite easily. The eloquence of the Quran. Sure. Do you know what I mean? On some level, do you know what I mean? Like the general Muslims can access on some level. Like we can enjoy recitations of the Quran, and just in our pocket we can listen to hundreds of reciters of the Quran recite with perfect tajweed, but completely easily. But to have the opportunity when you study to get to enjoy the eloquence of our beloved Messenger is something that that student of knowledge gets to enjoy, which is actually something which perhaps people of the other religions never get to appreciate, even from their own books.
Definitely. Do forgive me, my wife just bought me a date so I can break my fast, but continue please. I'm enjoying what you're saying.
No problem at all. I'll cover for you, inshallah. So so that's kind of some of the stuff that I've been thinking about a little bit recently. And I mean, like learning about this individual is such an enormous ni'mah, like the legacy that was left, purely from like a linguistic perspective. Because another question, kind of just thinking about kind of the comparison of the religions that I think about sometimes, is why is it so appropriate that the Quran was revealed as lisanun arabiyyun? Like, why is Arabic so good? And if you were to think I don't know if there is another example of a language which is so accessible over such a long amount of time. I mean, there are definitely languages which are like as old as Arabic. There's definitely languages like Sanskrit, which some people can read now, or like Chinese, and there's still Chinese now, or even English, right? Which is like a sort of a few hundred years old or whatever. But they're almost completely unintelligible, like 500 years ago or something. Like without a little bit of education, even like Shakespeare is pretty inaccessible to someone with a certain level of education. So if you were to think of all of the humans who have ever lived and ever been buried in the ground were all to be resurrected, I think Arabic would probably be the most commonly known language among them. You know, if you think about the amount of, like Fusha would be the most commonly known language among them, because not only the amount of space that it covers, but the number of generations that is covered, if you see what I mean. Like an amount of time of like 1,500 years of people who can all testify that they understand that language in particular. You know, it might be easy for people to look at it now and say, well, Chinese is the most spoken language. Like, why wasn't it revealed in Chinese? Well, like, it wouldn't be on Yom al-Qiyamah. Like, that wouldn't be the most recognized language among the people. And, I think with a little bit of kind of pondering, there's something so beautiful about that. Like, because it's not even accessing the Arabic language hasn't been made impossible for us either. Do you know what I mean? Like, even a real joy that the Christians had, and I even had in my past, was that the Bible has been translated in all these different languages, right? But what I was going to say, I've kind of forgotten my point. Oh, no, here was the point. Is that, like, because most of the other scriptures from the other religions are so big as well, like the Bible is, I don't know, maybe 3 times the size of the Quran. I mean, the Old Testament especially is particularly large. To read the whole Bible is a lot more challenging. There's a lot more work than learning Arabic and then reading the Quran, if you see what I mean. Yeah, so like if we were to say, I mean, I don't know exactly the comparison, but if the Quran were a similar size to the New Testament, learning Arabic is probably not much harder than reading the Old Testament. Like, however an individual is trying to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like even the proposal that Allah has proposed to us through Islam is even more accessible than anything else. Do you see what I mean?
Totally. And what you're saying, Akhi, it further emphasizes the importance of students around the world, or Muslims, should I say, trying to strive to learn that language, because we've been afforded that ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to have access to the exact same language that our beloved Prophet alayhi salatu salam spoke, and that's not a concession that any other religion can necessarily say that they have. If they went back, they can't speak in the same language as the prophets that they claim to follow, and that's it's beautiful.
So that brings us quite nicely actually on to, because obviously I wanted to have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about your time in Medina, and then so how long after you returned from Medina is it when you decide to take Maysoor Arabiya onto yourself?
To be honest, Akhi, Maysoor came about whilst I was in Medina.
Okay.
I think I was still in the Ma'had, and primarily it was my way to, solidify what I was learning and also share it, because one of the best ways, hands down, to decipher whether you've learned something is if you can teach it. Because if you learn something from the angle of I want to learn it to teach it, you're learning it for 2 people, as opposed to just saying, all right, I just want to learn it to benefit from myself. So what I used to do in the early days, actually, was simply whatever I would be learning in the Ma'had at the time, especially from the Medina book series, I would go home, and the videos to this day are still on YouTube. They're like these old school green boards. You don't see my face, but you would hear my voice. And for the time, like what we're looking at, like 9 years ago, they served their purpose. It was new. Nobody was doing stuff like that at that time. And in addition to that, it was like a hobby to me. So I was doing something that I enjoyed, but at the same time, people were benefiting from it. And I was also benefiting from it. So if you can find something that you find enjoyable, and there's an element of learning and, disseminating information to others, it's a beautiful situation to be in. So really, that's where Maysoor started. I can't remember what the year was, probably 2010. I'd have to go and check on the YouTube to find out when the year that I uploaded my first video. But that's where it started, and I never intended to turn it into a business or what it is today. I didn't, in all fairness. It just kind of organically grew that way.
And so at that point, what is kind of the first thing that you do to build Maysoor? Like, is it literally just kind of repackaging the knowledge that you're getting from Medina in a way which helps you and a way which you think will help others? Is that just, that's all it is in the beginning?
In essence, yeah. But what it is, Akhi, is that, the word Maysoor in and of itself, like the linguistic meaning, has a couple of meanings actually, but it means to make things easy, to make things feasible, to make things accessible. And I just felt that oftentimes the conventional way of studying, especially Arabic, was just made difficult. And my thing was that it's challenging, but it doesn't have to be so difficult. I want to be able to, communicate this beautiful language to an audience who have the ability to learn it, but it's just not been given to them in a way that they can digest. And that's what I, committed, the next however many years, nearly 10 years now of my life to doing. And I've still got a long way to go, but I have come a long way, and I appreciate the growth. You with me? So yeah, in essence, and that's what it is. It's learning, repackaging it, and delivering it in such a way that people can digest it. Because there's so many people that teach Arabic, yourself being one of them. There's so many free videos on YouTube. I'm not the most knowledgeable student about the Arabic language, but one of the things, if we can call it a USP, a unique selling point that Maysoor has, is that we have the ability to explain seemingly complicated constructions in a very, very easy and digestible way. Actually, I'm just conscious of Maghrib coming in, and we have to pray. So
Yeah,
do you want to...
we can have a break, inshallah.
Yeah, and then we can...
Yeah, we can have a break, inshallah. I'll go get some water as well, and we can pray, inshallah. So should we meet back in like 5 or something?
Yeah, let's say 10 minutes.
Yeah, give it 10. Give it 10. We'll meet back at like 1:45, inshallah, and yeah, we'll carry on our conversation, inshallah. I'll just pause this.
Yes,
how are the family?
Alhamdulillah, everyone's good, man. We actually left 3 of my children at my parents' house, and we brought 2 back with us. So the house is pretty quiet today, alhamdulillah.
What are their ages?
Okay, you put me on the spot now, Akhi. I've got 12. 11 or 10, I forget now. 8,
good. Yeah,
5, and just under 5 months.
MashaAllah. Yeah, your newest Allah Mubarak, may Allah bless him or her.
Him.
May Allah bless him. Was in January, right? Your latest arrival.
Yeah, that's correct, actually. MashaAllah.
Good, MashaAllah. Yeah, good, MashaAllah.
How did you know? Or how did you remember, shall I say?
Well, because you're my brother and I actually care about what's going on in your life. So when I see things on your Instagram and stuff, I make a note of it because, I have friends and I care about them, so that's it really. My youngest, Yunus, is, he's 10 months now. He already likes football. He's nearly standing up and he's trying to kick the football around and stuff. Yeah, his mum really wants him to be a professional footballer because she wants the money, isn't it? So, so before we took a little break to go and pray, I just wanted to make a point about how you were saying about how at Maysoor, a big part of it is kind of repackaging Arabic, like obviously seemingly complex things. Obviously, people who don't have a foundation or aren't familiar with it, obviously a lot of things are seemingly complex, but when we can kind of unpack them, they become not so. And I just kind of thought one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you about why you studied Hadith is because I kind of noticed that maybe 2 of the most approachable and most accessible graduates of Medinah are obviously yourself and Ustad Tim Humble, may Allah bless him, and both of you are graduates of Hadith as well, and I wasn't sure if there's a particular reason for the 2 of you, but that was just something particular that I noticed. But it's something very nice that that the community, literally like a few clicks of a button, they can approach someone like yourself who's a graduate from the University of Medina. Now that's an enormous ni'mah. Like with some of the platforms that we have now, obviously a lot of fitan have come, but I mean it is a big ni'mah to be able to literally, like some of my audience today could drop you a DM on Instagram and they could be learning Arabic from you like next week, couldn't they?
I mean, the same day if they wanted to.
Subhanallah.
Same day. And I think that's really, really important, actually, to be accessible to the people and not to allow any accolades that you may feel that you've accomplished, whether you're a graduate or whether you've just been around seeking knowledge or around the ulama, to not allow that to make you think you're bigger than who you are, because it was only a few years ago you were quote unquote a layman or a laywoman. So the fact that you said that you know, I'm accessible, that makes me happy, Akhi, and I'm glad that, you know, I'm being perceived that way, because that's exactly how I want to be perceived. You with me?
Yeah, I definitely think that even though obviously like for Arabic teachers out there, and obviously it applies to ourselves, like we have families, and obviously we have needs, and obviously it needs to be to a certain degree a business, but
Sure.
doing things for free and being accessible and just putting out help for people, I 100% believe in my heart that works out in the end. You know, like just in my experience, like when I've had periods of my life where I've just woke up every day and I've said, look, I'm going to give something for free to the Arabic students on every platform, every day. And the metrics works out. Like it really works out, you know, like I know there are some people in our space, and I've certainly received some business advice in my time that kind of suggests that the best business model is high ticket. Like, I don't know if you've sort of had this advice as well, that the best business model is to go for sort of like, you know, maybe $1,000 to kind of $3,000 kind of packages, right? And whilst I know there are some brothers in our space who do that, and I don't want to criticize what they do, because if people have the means for it, then they do their thing. Do you know what I mean? Like they do their thing. But I personally found, like, if I were to do that, it doesn't come from a sincere place. Do you know what I mean? And the metrics of just behaving in line with what you think is what you think is you giving as much as you can. I just believe that works out better in the end.
I totally concur. And just to corroborate what you just said, when COVID was at its infancy stage, if you like, I just woke up one day, and I was actually inspired by somebody that's helped me with Facebook ads in the past, just to give back. So I decided to teach one of the books that we studied in the first level of the Arabic Institute, called Al-Qira'ah, which is reading skills, right? So I said, you know what, I'm going to teach this book absolutely for free, because it was at a time where everybody was at home. So I did that, and I did not take the approach that, okay, this is free, so whatever I decide to give you, just accept. I actually approached the teaching, the delivery, the amount of time that I gave, as if it was a high level course. Like I said, literally, as if somebody paid me 200. Well, not that saying 200 is a high ticket, but you know, it's a medium size, it's a medium kind of, you know, price range. So you know, I initially said it's going to be like 14 days. It ended up being longer. I initially said that each lesson was going to be an hour. It ended up being like hour and a half to 2 hours as like a standard. And I tried to over deliver, not because I wanted conversions at the end of the course. I didn't. Although I did say, look, guys, because people were saying, well, what next? Where do we go next? And I said, well, you know, once you finish this, if you really want to move on to the next level, then I suggest you do this. And it just organically happened that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 1,300 people signed up for the free course. As you know, a fraction of those people actually attended the course. You know, we had like, out of those 1,300 people, maybe 250 on the first day. Then the second day, it starts to dwindle down. And I said to them, I said, guys, look, as I was surprised that there was 250 people online. I said, as happy as I am to see so many people online, by the time we finish this course, it's going to be about 50 people solid. And lo and behold, actually, that's what it was. It went down from, you know, 1,300 people signing up to 250 people attending to 50 people also completing. And off the back of that, so many people ended up converting to other courses that I sell. And it was such a beautiful thing, because I was just giving back. I didn't give to receive. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just sent down the barakah. And it was, put it this way, that month was a very, very fruitful month. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
That's interesting, because, you know, like for me, I do very, very little stuff live. Like most of the content that I create, if it's something that I would deliver, I'll record the video and let students watch the video. The thing that I do live is any one-to-one help. So for my program, for the Arabic in 60 Steps program, I just have a phone. I might have it here somewhere. So I just have this phone, and this is only for students on that program. And as a WhatsApp number, and I turn this on every single day. It's the first thing I do every day. And then I just answer all of their questions every day. And you know, alhamdulillah, we've got 500 students on that program now. So like, so it's busy. But what I was going to say about what you said is that's, by the time that you get down to that last 50, because you've done them live, that's a really good 50. Like for people to have turned up for all those days, to have done the whole thing, you've got an amazing 50 there.
Actually, they amaze it. I don't have the words right now to articulate how I feel about, you know, the people that are committing themselves. Whether it's free or not, let's put that to one side. You are taking time out of your busy schedule to dedicate yourself to learn the Arabic language. And what's beautiful actually about the one-to-one teaching, the online teaching, even if I ended up recording the classes and selling it packaging it as a course, you get to develop a relationship now with your students. That's beautiful. They get to see your humorous side, your serious side. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that's really, really important when you're in the space of the field, of teaching. That you know, they see you as a person. You know, they see the human side of you. Sometimes I made mistakes. You know, sometimes there may have been errors in the harakat on the words. Somebody would correct me, and I would appreciate that. And I think that is beautiful because it's organic and it's natural.
I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame sometimes that people who are like the real scholars of the Arabic language perhaps don't have the desire to present themselves on camera. Do you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes, like, I'm an individual who, like, I have a degree in Arabic, but like our Arabic language degrees here in the West are nothing compared to the standard of the Islamic knowledge in the Middle East and in our Muslim majority countries. But like, I will end up having students instead of them because I'm prepared to sit in front of a camera and build a relationship with students and stuff. And I often think about that, you know, because actually I had an opportunity to have a good friend of mine's Arabic teacher who is like, you know, incredibly high level in the Arabic language. He might even actually be a graduate from Medinah from the College of the Arabic Language. He might have actually done that. Okay. Yeah, he's a friend of mine. There's a brother called Shaheen Ar-Rahman. I don't know if you heard of him before, but he's a good friend of mine. No. And but I actually had an opportunity with his teacher to have him on the podcast, and he said, I don't think I've got anything to contribute. Imagine that, someone in that position. He said, I don't think I've got anything to contribute really, so I don't really want to be a guest on the show. Like someone who perhaps is more knowledgeable than all of my combined guests ever. Just had sort of the you know, the attitude to just say, do you know what, I'm just going to go to the madrasa and teach my class this weekend because I don't really think I have anything to contribute to that. Subhanallah. I
mean, that could be from humility. He could genuinely just be a very, very, very humble guy. Or, you know what it's like? It's like, it's strange. When I was in Al-Medinah, because you're around scholars and you're around strong students of knowledge and mediocre students of knowledge, you can easily fall into the trap of thinking that you're insignificant and you don't have anything to give and don't speak because, you know, we have the ulama and stuff like that. Your role is just to be a translator or whatever the case may be. And what I found, not in all cases, but some cases, is if somebody has low confidence in their own selves and they're happy to be placed in the box, then, you know, subsequently they want to place you in the box. You with me? And you may not be a person that likes to be placed in the box. But when you're constantly fed that message over a period of time, it is not inconceivable to have that type of mindset. And I too, I had that mindset. When I, just before I graduated, a good friend of mine came over. He was he was working on the administration of one of the mosques in our local vicinity. And he was like, look, we've got a job for you as the imam. And really and truly, who better to be an imam other than a graduate from any university for that matter? But I said, no. I turned it down because I felt at the time, because of the cultivation I had from the other students, I didn't have anything to offer. And it was ludicrous when I actually did take the position, which my ad was out of desperation, not because I wanted to take it. I needed the money, so I just took the job. I realized, you know, the little knowledge that I do have, it's big to students that haven't been exposed to what I've been exposed to. Now that was the that paradigm, I think they call it the paradigm shift in my mind to say, you know what, I'm going to start, you know, embracing who I am and what I've been able to accomplish and give what I can. I can only give what I can. And I suppose with the brother in question that you mentioned, if he were to understand, even if he doesn't feel that he hasn't got any benefit, because he's probably comparing himself to ulama, but he's got a lot of value to give to people that don't know nothing. But again, it's a mindset shift, which is it can be quite challenging.
It's definitely the case that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put you in a position where you've been able to gain a little bit of knowledge in some way, or even if you have an outlook which benefits other people when you have a conversation with them about something. Like, one of the reasons why I wanted to run this show is because I've benefited a lot from just listening in on conversations of people who are striving for something. You know, sometimes people even say things that I benefit a lot from, and it wasn't even their main point. Like, sometimes people will make a kind of an off-the-cuff comment, which wasn't even kind of the main thing about their point. And, you know, like, I've noticed this a lot in da'wah, especially like down here in Cornwall. Like, we have quite a lot of revert brothers down here, like a disproportionate amount, considering we've got hardly any Muslims and like no da'wah effort. And a lot of the brothers tell me that like they embraced Islam from like off-the-cuff comments that they just heard other Muslims say, like online and in debates and stuff like that, and it just resonated with them. You know, like there's definitely something to be said for that. And like with this show, I mean, I'm doing it as a daily show now. So like I'm having 1 hour long conversations with people every day, and it gives me an opportunity as well to kind of be mentored in a way by people who are striving for something, who see the world in a different way. And there's yeah, subhanAllah, there's definitely benefits that you can deliver to people so long as you present it right.
That's it.
So tell me about what you deliver at Maysoor now, just for the benefit of my audience. I'm sure many of my audience are familiar with your work, but just so they don't know, just tell us about I'll put your website up at the bottom of the screen as well, and tell us kind of what you offer at Maysoor. So if people want to learn Arabic now, then how can they get in touch with you and have your help?
I mean, primarily, you know, you can jump on the website, which is www.maysoor.com. And we initially started off specializing in the Medinah book series because they were the series that I, you know, used to study Arabic. I have looked at other books, but for me, I'm just muta'assibi and I'm very fanatical with those books. Whilst I totally concur and understand that they don't, you know, fulfill the speaking side of things, you know, and they're more focused on grammar. I think that for students in the West, and again, Akhi, this is my opinion, you may have a completely different stance on this. I think that students should focus on their grammar and their reading skills more so than speaking skills when they're in the West. And the reason why I say that is, if you focus on speaking in the West, okay, alhamdulillah, you're going to learn how to express yourself, but you're going to have very, very little practice unless you're married to an Arab, or you might be in a community whereby there might be a lot of Arabs that you can communicate on a daily basis. I just personally feel it's kind of counterintuitive to focus on speaking, which a lot of people want to do. I want to speak Arabic, I want to speak Arabic, I want to speak Arabic. But the reality is you can only really thrive in that particular area if you're in a Muslim country. But if you're in the UK now, if you focus on your faham, your understanding, which necessitates you need to know how to read, you need to have a decent understanding of grammar, you can be anywhere in the world and benefit from those aforementioned skills. And the majority of us are living in the West, so it just makes logical sense for me for students to focus on that. But at the same time, as you know, if you want to gain mastery in any language, you have to ensure that all of the 4 main core skills are being worked on simultaneously, namely reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So although we do specialize in the Medinah books, we have branched out to cover other books, like, for example, Al-Qira'ah, like I said, which is the one of the books that we studied in level number 1 of the Arabic Institute. So in level number 1, Al-Mustawa Al-Awwal, we had 4 books. Medinah book 1, Al-Qira'ah, Al-Ta'bir, and a book called Al-Kitaba. I've already got a course for Medinah book 1, which I've labeled as the study buddy course. We've already done Al-Qira'ah now. as we speak, akhi, I'm working on a ta'bir. And at the end of this month, inshallah ta'ala, if Allah wills, I'm actually going to run this course live, just like I did for Al-Qira'ah. So this, inshallah, this podcast will be a fantastic, promotional tool for that particular course. And if anybody's interested, they can contact me via the website or via Instagram. I'm very, very responsive on Instagram. And then with Kitaba, I didn't really like the book that we studied, to be honest. So I've got my own version of a writing skills course. So the whole idea is to repackage, same word that you used earlier on today, repackage the whole Medinah University Arabic curriculum online. And it's sorry, tfadal akhi.
No, I was just going to say, just before you move on, inshallah, just for clarity for my audience, can you give us dates for when you'll start running that course online?
Yeah, that ta'bir, I'm hoping by the end of this month.
Okay,
so
which is
inshallah
June.
in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
The end of June.
Yeah.
End of
Okay,
June,
good.
Beginning of July. The next couple of days, I'm going to get the we call it, in our world, actually we call it the sales page. I'm going to get the sales page ready. People can sign up. And I don't intend for it to be expensive. I only intend to charge £50, which is usually you would pay more money for the live course and then cheaper for the pre-recorded. But if somebody wanted like certain other concessions like homework marked and stuff like that, there will be an option to pay a little bit extra to get that concession. If you don't want that and you just want to just tune in and benefit, then you're free to do so at the cheaper price. So my dream is to actually do the whole 2 years of the Arabic Institute online. And as I was about to say a little while ago, it's my, I passionately believe that students will come out stronger after going through the curriculum with Maysoor Arabic than many of us did once we left the Arabic Institute in Al-Medinah. Why? Not because I'm a better teacher than the teachers of the inside the Arabic Institute, but can you just imagine when you're studying something in Arabic for the first time, whilst you'll benefit tremendously, imagine all of the fawaid benefits that went over your head that you just didn't pick up. You with me? By for no other reason other than the language barrier. The language barrier. And you don't have that issue when you're studying in your native tongue, because even if I speak in Arabic, I'm also going to speak in English to make sure you understand every single thing. So one of the issues that many of us as students had once we graduated from the Arabic Institute, we weren't that strong. We weren't strong enough to go to Kulliyah because there were so many things that we didn't understand by virtue of the fact that we didn't have certain skills in place. Our writing skills weren't up to scratch. Our expression skills weren't up to scratch. You know what I mean? We could read and we could understand, but our grammar skills compared to what we need at Kulliyah level, i.e. to be able to read about any harakat, weren't up to scratch. So we kind of were just thrown in the deep end. And I believe that with Maysoor Arabic and even with your institute, Akhi, we remove that obstacle there, or that pain point. And I think it's very, very important to emphasize that and for students to be aware and to appreciate that you guys are getting something that we didn't get when we were studying Arabic in Arabic overseas.
When you talk about the fee for that course, I know that typically the people who go into teaching Arabic are typically not people who are business minded. Like typically people who go, or else we wouldn't go into teaching Arabic. We'd go into selling high ticket consulting or something, which is a much more lucrative business. But sure. It's really nice to hear someone like yourself, and I'd like to hear more Arabic teachers just be unapologetic about what they charge. Because when it's something like that, like when we compare that, something like £50, or may Allah bless you if you charge 100 or whatever you charge, inshallah. Like, if you imagine the sacrifice that you had to make to go and study that stuff, like sure. we're talking at like the equivalent of like thousands of pounds when you consider the sacrifices you made, the time you spent away from your family, the things that you actually went through, including travel costs or whatever you incurred to actually go there, including the hardships that you had to endure to actually go into another country where it's hot You know, you're sitting around people you never met before. You're maybe even sharing a bedroom with people you never met before and stuff. Like the sacrifices that you went through, and the fact that you can not only repackage it to make it more accessible from a learning perspective, but to make it even cheaper from a financial perspective, is an enormous ni'mah that we ask that Allah give you the reward for in the akhirah.
Ameen ya Rab wa iyyak akhi. Barakallahu fika.
To speak to your point about whether I agree about kind of a focus on grammar, you know, over the years, kind of I've ended up in a position now where I find it just works better for me to not comment on what I necessarily think is better or worse, because quite often students, when they approach me, they already know what they want. So I found that it's worked out better sort of financially for me and better for my students when I just say, look, I'm really good at teaching this thing that I teach, and you might not want that. I can recommend you a brother who does, or who can help you, or something like that. Because for me, just the way that I learned and the things that I'm interested in is kind of literary Arabic to enrich the soul. Like I kind of want to empower students to be able to access some of the Arabic literature, which really changed me. Like there's some Arabic poetry and Arabic texts and travel writing and stuff that literally like enriched my soul when I read that. Like to be able to see the world through the eyes of someone who's practicing Islam from Iraq in the 10th century and how they describe things. Like I'm good at opening those doors to some students, but if a student comes to me and says, look, I'm really interested in, you know, getting a job in Dubai to work in like the corporate world, I'll be like, listen, akhi, barakallahu feek, like the Arabic in 60 Steps program probably isn't right for you, unless you also want to read some classical Arabic poetry, you know, alongside or whatever. So I've ended up just kind of taking the approach of like, let the students kind of figure their own way of what they kind of want to do first. And if it happens to be aligned with what I deliver, then we do business, you know, or we work together, inshallah. And that's kind of ended up being my approach, because it can be very hard to kind of coach people into a right outlook. But I 100% agree that when some courses promise that they're a speaking program here in the West, I think it's more a case of that them falsely saying that they can deliver something that they can't, rather than that a course like yourself, so mine is deficient somehow. You know, it's usually that they claim that they can deliver something which they can't, because I mean language, the sort of thing that people are expecting when they come to you or us, and I don't think it helps that in English when we talk about language we only really use the term speaking. Like if you learn a language, we say I'm going to learn to speak this language. We don't really, in our language, we don't really have the terms to say, I'm going to learn to write Arabic, or I'm going to learn to read Arabic. Like we always associate speaking with learning a language. Yeah. But like, honestly, like an essential thing that you need to actually achieve that is immersion to some degree, which is either incredibly difficult for you to recreate or impossible. Like if you're not willing to do it full time, it's really hard. Like when I was at university, obviously you and I have had different experiences with this, because you were in an Arab country when you were learning, but I was in London, right? I'm in central London. So like on our course, they pretty much didn't even bother teaching us dialects or spoken Arabic until they just kicked us into Palestine in the third year. Like we had like a couple of classes, a week or something where we'd learn a few phrases or whatever, but they were like, look, there's only so much we can do in 2 hours a week. You know, like I even criticize this about our education system here in the UK. Like I was saying, one of the videos I made on TikTok recently was just speaking to the fact that in this country, it's pretty much compulsory for like all of us to learn a language at school, right? Like at secondary school. So we go from like year 7 to year 11. For our brothers and sisters who are over the pond in America or wherever, that means like age 11 to sort of 16. So like you've got like a whole country of people who have learned French for 5 years. Do you know anyone who has benefited from French at school? No, me neither. I don't know a single person. I don't know. Think of that. Like all of the funding and all of the training that's gone into these teachers. They deliver these lessons, and like I worked as a primary school teacher. Like I know how much planning goes into these lessons, right? For like the whole population to learn nothing. So like there's a problem. There's a problem with having a lesson twice a week, and then we leave and don't even think about it again. And that's kind of what our speaking experience was like at university. And our lecturers just kind of accepted we can only do so much here. Like, you know, so I absolutely agree with that. And a principle that I thought was really powerful when I was writing the Arabic in 60 Steps program, which is unique to teaching grammar, is that when you learn a rule, like you can hold on to that rule. Like because I originally wrote that program when I was teaching children. and I'd go to their houses like around London. When I first left my job as a teacher, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was just trying to teach some kids Arabic to try to make enough money to survive, really. And I'd only see them once a week. And I was trying to think like, well, how can I deliver like an immersive experience to children when I see them for 1 hour a week? And the best that you can do in a situation like that is equip them with something that they can remember. Like we're going to do a Jumla Ismiya. We learn about a Jumla Ismiya and that's it. Right. And it's something that even like a 6, 7, 8-year-old can hold on to. They have a rule, they've got a name for it, they know how to do it, they've got some examples of it. And, you know, having that and then kind of having an accumulative approach to it. Like, well, once you kind of understand how to do a Jumla Ismiya, it's not a big step to kind of say, well, this is how we put a fi'l in it, and this is how we do a Jumla Fi'liya. And to kind of, you know, like things being accumulative is something that's important to me. And I think that kind of stems from, you know, when I saw children, a 7-year-old girl once a week and was trying to get Arabic into her brain somehow.
Yeah. How did you get on with that?
Well, the thing is it had varying degrees of success depending on how committed the parents were to it as well. Because literally, like if I see a student every Wednesday, for example, and the parent is prepared to go over what they did on the Saturday, that student won't only progress twice as fast, it's exponential more than that. You know, consistency in learning languages is like a superpower. It's, you know, the growth isn't just double. It's not just the fruits of what you get from 2 hours. It's more than that because it you know, it compounds so quickly. So it kind of depended on what the parents were willing to do. Like if I was willing to set homework and the parents were willing to do the work, and so with varying success depending on the commitment of the parents. Like the commitment of the parents is incredibly important. You know, like even among my students, I particularly have a soft spot in my heart for students that I have who are parents, and particularly mothers. You know, like the nature of my program, most of it being pre-recorded online, is that mothers who are at home with their children, they get their kids to sleep for an hour and they can do some work, they can learn some Arabic, and it's a way that they can do it at home and they can do it flexibly around what they're doing. And those sisters who are mothers, like they've got a special place in my heart, really, because I know that will have a direct impact on how well their children will learn Arabic as well.
100%. Very important, Akhi. May Allah bless you, man.
I mean.